silahkan Anda untuk dapat menempati tempat duduk yang telah disediakan karena sebentar lagi acara akan segera dimulai. A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We would like to please you to be seated because we are about to start our program for this morning. Thank you.
Itu sangat bermanfaat sekali Pak. Dulu 1 tahun itu bagi lahan kering itu bisa tanam padi 1 kali. Kalau sekarang itu bisa tiap musim tanam.
Tidak akan mungkin menjadi bangsa yang berdaulat di bidang pangan kalau jumlah bendungan dan saluran irigasi yang mengairi lahan-lahan pertanian kita di seluruh penjuru tanah air sangat terbatas.
Saluran HLD merupakan urat nadi dan pusat tata kelola air di wilayah Sungai Lombok yang menghubungkan 12 daerah aliran sungai dan membawa kelebihan air dari das basah di bagian barat ke das kering di bagian timur dan selatan Pulau Lombok dengan panjang total 60 km. Saluran HLD perlu mendapat perhatian serius untuk menjamin NTB menjadi lumbung pangan nasional.
Dengan mengucap Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, pada pagi hari ini saya resmikan Bendungan Sukamahi di Kabupaten Bogor, Provinsi Jawa Barat.
sekalian, baru saja kita saksikan bersama pengendalian banjir bendungan Ciawi dan Sukamahi yang baru saja diresmikan oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia.
Dua bendungan ini adalah bendungan kering, Ciawi dan Sukamahi. Ini kita harapkan bisa mengurangi banjir yang ada di Jakarta kurang lebih 30,6%.
Penyediaan air minum merupakan kegiatan menyediakan air minum untuk memenuhi kebutuhan masyarakat agar mendapatkan kehidupan yang sehat, bersih, dan produktif. SPAM Regional Jatiluhur 1 dibentuk dengan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha KPBU dengan sistem desain, build, finance, maintenance, operate, and transfer antara pemerintah dengan badan usaha pelaksana yaitu PT Wika Tirta Jaya Jatiluhur. Dengan beroperasinya SPAM Jatiluhur, diharapkan pelayanan air bersih perpipaan untuk daerah DKI Jakarta, Bekasi, dan Karawang akan meningkat. Quality leads to better life.
Proyek Sistem Penyediaan Air Minum Regional Karian Serpong adalah salah satu proyek strategis nasional yang dilakukan dengan menggunakan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha atau KPBU. Sumber air berasal dari Karian Dam yang saat ini masih dalam proses konstruksi, kapasitasnya sekitar 300 juta meter kubik. Proyek SPAM Regional Karian Serpong akan memberikan layanan terhadap total 1,9 juta penduduk.
From the largest dam in the country, SPAM Insinyur Haji Juanda Jatiluhur Stage 2 Drinking Water System Project. Water for the people. Supplying drinking water at a tap of over 2 million people in 30 of 119 sub-districts in Jakarta, Bekasi City, Bekasi Regency, and Bogor Regency.
So managing water resources, we always do it at the national level, but we know that water doesn't have any boundaries. So it's really important to look at it at the basin level. We say you can't manage what you can't measure. So that's why data and information has a significant role in helping basins and regional organizations to better manage the water resources.
Water is in danger. I strongly believe that we are in the danger if water is not taken care properly. Everybody will have to come together. Everybody will have to share their expertise, their experiences, and we have to march together by holding hands firmly to achieve that goal of water security to everyone, because it's not anyone's business, it's everyone's business now.
Sebelum acara dimulai, izinkan kami membacakan safety induction, keamanan, kesehatan, keselamatan kerja, dan lingkungan di Institut Teknologi Bandung. ITB berkomitmen untuk mencapai kinerja terbaik di bidang keamanan, kesehatan, keselamatan kerja, dan lingkungan yang mencakup aset sumber daya manusia, bangunan, peralatan, dan kekayaan intelektual. Oleh karena itu, ITB mengharapkan kesadaran setiap individu yang berada di area ITB untuk turut berperan dalam mewujudkan kondisi keamanan, kesehatan, keselamatan kerja, dan lingkungan yang kondusif untuk memahami pedoman umum keamanan dan ketiga yang berlaku di lingkungan kampus ITB sebagai berikut. Setiap individu diminta untuk meluangkan waktu memahami lokasi kegiatan dengan melihat peta lokasi yang memuat jalur evakuasi, lokasi pintu darurat, tempat berkumpul darurat, tanda kedaruratan, lokasi pemadam api ringan, dan juga kotak P3K. Pintu darurat terletak di sisi belakang ruangan ini, sedangkan assembly point atau tempat berkumpul yang aman terletak di sisi kanan gedung ini. Sebagai informasi, hadirin saat ini menghadap ke arah barat. Jika diperlukan, evakuasi panitia atau satpam akan memandu. Setiap individu wajib turut menjaga kebersihan gedung dan area ini, serta membuang sampah pada tempat sampah yang telah disediakan. Setiap individu dihimbau untuk tidak meninggalkan barang tanpa pengawasan karena alasan keamanan. Tidak diperkenankan merokok di dalam gedung dan di kawasan kampus ITB, kecuali di area merokok. Pastikan puntung rokok mati sebelum membuang ke tempat sampah. Kami menghimbau kepada setiap individu untuk selalu menerapkan protokol kesehatan 6M, yaitu selalu menggunakan masker dengan baik, mencuci tangan dengan air dan sabun atau menggunakan hand sanitizer, menjaga jarak, tidak berjabat tangan, tidak berkerumun, dan tidak makan bersama. Jika terjadi kondisi darurat atau jika ada orang atau benda mencurigakan, kecelakaan atau kondisi tidak aman lainnya, silakan menghubungi panitia atau petugas keamanan terdekat atau nomor darurat ITB 022 25 00 204. Demikian pedoman ini disampaikan dan kami ucapkan terima kasih atas perhatian dan kerjasamanya. Moya, clean water for better living. Shalom, Namo Buddhaya, salam sejahtera, salam kebajikan untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu. Interpreted as may peace and happiness always upon us. A very good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Road to 10 World Water Forum Site event, Water Innovative Finance Day, second workshop, Blended Finance for Water Sector. May I have a big round of applause for all of us. Thank you. It is an honor. My name is Putri Gorda to be the MC for this lovely morning. First and foremost, please allow me to convey our gratitude and warm welcome to Director General for Public Works and Housing, Ministry of Public Works and Housing of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Heri Trisaputra Zuna. Selamat pagi. To the Regional Secretary of West Java, Mr. Setiawan Wangsa Atmaja. Selamat datang Bapak. To the Director of Bandung Institute of Technology, Professor Reni Wirahadi Kusuma. Selamat pagi, Ibu. Also, we would like to extend our gratitude and warm welcome to the Specialist Leader of Deloitte, Mr. Pius Tom. To the President Director of IIGF, Mr. Wahid Sutopo. Welcome. To the Vice Chairman of Program and Session, 10 World Water Forum 2024, Mr. Ari Setyadi Murwanto. Selamat pagi. Also, we would like to greet the Head of Center of Excellence in Urban Infrastructure Development, Catholic University of Parayangan, Professor Andreas Wibowo. Selamat datang. And the last one but not least, we would like to extend our gratitude and warm welcome to all respectable speakers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all participants. May I have a big round of applause once again for all of us. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, now please rise for the national anthem of the Republic of Indonesia. Hadirin dimohon berdiri. dipersilahkan duduk kembali. Please be seated. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we begin our event for today, we would like to say a prayer according to your beliefs. Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, kami persilahkan Anda untuk dapat berdoa menurut agama dan kepercayaan masing-masing. Saya mohon izin untuk dapat memimpin doa pada kesempatan pagi hari ini. So ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to lead the prayer and let the prayer begin. Berdoa dipersilahkan. Berdoa selesai. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to commence our event for today, we are delighted to invite Director of Bandung Institute of Technology to deliver the welcome remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Reni Wirahadi Kusuma. Kami persilahkan.
Baik, selamat pagi. Wilujeng enjing saya Dana. Selamat datang ke kampus Institut Teknologi Bandung. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished guest ya, yang terhormat, bersama kami Bapak Dirjen, Bapak Dr. Heri Trisaputra Juna. He's my long time friend, my colleague from ITB. We studied together, undergraduate. Bapak Dr. Setiawan Wangsa Dinata, kemudian Dr. Stopo, semua kawan kolega pejabat jajaran Kementerian PUPR, para speakers, Profesor Andreas Wibowo from Parahyangan, Dr. Pius Chong, Victoria Delmon, and all participants. So this morning we gather here to speak about very, very strategic important issues for mankind. So Indonesia is elected as the host of 10th World Water Forum next year, 2024, in Bali, ya Pak ya. So this is a very important issue. So the Ministry of Public Works and Housing would like to prepare better for the successful of this forum. So several side events have been arranged, planned, including tomorrow the discussion. This morning we would like to focus on blended finance for water sector. There are places with water surplus, while some other deficit. Some places frequently flooded, while others experience drought. Fresh water on the earth has always been limited. Fresh water is valuable, but often poorly managed due to the limited infrastructure and our management approach. So unfortunately, this condition also happened in our country. So infrastructure is needed to ensure that the available water can be used optimally and to prevent potential disaster due to the presence of water. The major challenges for water resources infrastructure development is the high investment. It's very, very costly, very expensive to build the needed facilities. While in many cases, the available fund, public fund, are limited. But that is not only in Indonesia, everywhere. Public sector always have a classic constraint in limited funding. So we have to just find a solution for our common problem. And this is very complex. The complexity of the problem in public infrastructure is multi-sectoral. We all understand that. So it is very crucial. We have to work together to find the effective solution. Today's seminar, as was mentioned earlier, will be focused on blended finance for water resources sector. So what is the blended finance? Pak Heri will explain that to us in more detail. What is the difference? What is the specific term about blended finance? I think this is one of the innovative way that he would like to propose to us. So this seminar is expected to be one of the events where stakeholders from various backgrounds, we have everybody here who are have concern about water issues gathered here this morning. So Alhamdulillah, various background, including of course government agencies, multinational institutions, academia, private sector, community. We all hopefully and optimistically we can collaborate and find solution. So, ladies and gentlemen, good water infrastructure and management are crucial to coping with it, and finding an alternative is an effort that can contribute to better and more sustainable development that we all dream of. In ITB, Institut Teknologi Bandung, we founded a center specifically for this issue, for public sector infrastructure. We call it Center for Infrastructure and Built Environment, or CIBE. And this center is under the Faculty of Civil and Environmental Engineering, located just a few buildings behind us. CIBE activities are focused on 7 main issues. One is advanced design method to resist earthquake in high-rise building, long-span bridges, and other complex and large structure. So we focus on earthquake. And then number 2, resilient and sustainable system for flood control, for flood. 3, development of innovative, sustainable environmental infrastructure for overcoming environmental degradation. So we also focus on environmental issues. The 4th is maritime infrastructure, because we have experts in that area, in ocean engineering. The 5th is advanced sustainable materials for infrastructure construction and rehabilitation. And 6th, for a policy. We also understand that we have to develop innovative scheme for promoting construction policy, etc. And last but not least, we also understand the importance of innovative schemes in infrastructure, partnership, and financing. So our center will continue to support interdisciplinary research and collaboration with all of you to promote Indonesian better public infrastructure. So finally, we would like to thank the Director General for Public Works and Housing Infrastructure Financing, the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, and our colleague at the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Environment, and also the School of Business Management for managing today's seminar. So I'm assuring you that there will be more focused discussion following up today's event in the near future. Once again, welcome everyone. Have a very productive discussion. Enjoy each other's company. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor. Terima kasih, Ibu. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our next agenda is the opening remarks that will be delivered by the Director General of Infrastructure Financing for Public Works and Housing, Ministry of Public Works and Housing of the Republic of Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Dr. Insinyur Heri Trisaputra Zuna, SAMT. Kami persilahkan.
Excellencies, Speaker and distinguished guests, Honorable Mr. Setiawan Wangsaat Maja, Regional Secretary of West Java Province, Professor Reni Wirahadikusuma, my friend, Rector of Bandung Institute of Technology, Mrs. Victoria Delmon, Regional Upstream and Advisory Head Infrastructure Asia Pacific, IFC, Mr. Pius Chong, Executive Director Deals and Strategy Deloitte, Mr. Wahid Sutopo, President Director of IIGF, Professor Andreas Wibowo, Head of Excellence in Urban Infrastructure Development, Parahyangan Catholic University, before under the Ministry of Public Works, Pak. Head of Local Government, and also here we have Pak Ari Murwanto, Pak Irwan, Pak Benyamin, and Pak Gerard from Kiat and Embassy, representative of Indonesian ministries and agencies, embassy, state-owned enterprise, financial institution, strategic partner, international organization, water sector, and academic institution, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, and may peace be upon us all. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the second workshop, Blended Finance for Water Sector, Road to 10 World Water Forum 2024 side event for Water Innovative Finance team. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the world today is not on track to meet the Sustainable Development Goal 6 on water and sanitation, largely due to insufficient level of water-related investment. Estimated global cost of achieving SDG 6 exceed $1 trillion per year, or 1.21% of GDP. To achieve universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water for all by 2030, the present value of the additional investment needed is around $1.7 trillion, which is about 3 times the current investment level. Over the years, water resources infrastructure rely heavily on public funding and had difficulty securing the funding from private sector. This is primarily due to the nature of investment in water infrastructure projects, which are capital intensive and require a large initial investment with no revenue generated. That's why today we have a topic, how we can develop the blended finance, how we can combine any resources from commercial sector, private government, as well as other low interest money. Innovative water financing becomes a fundamental issue to ensure water security and achieve SDG target. The business as usual approach should be led out, and the key stakeholders need to work together to increase investment in the water sector. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to address the challenge in the water sector, World Water Council established World Water Forum to raise awareness of critical water issues and aim at putting water firmly on the international agenda to allow sustainable human development. As the host of the 10th World Water Forum, Indonesia will work on 6 themes, with one of them being the water and innovative finance. The event activities in water and innovative finance consist of 2 main activities, workshop series and call for policy brief. Each of the event will be a platform that offers an opportunity for all participants to join and formulate solutions in water innovative financing. On February 7, the first seminar as part of the workshop series of Water Innovative Finance has been held to discuss strategic perspective on public-private partnership for water resource infrastructure based on experience and studies. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today through the second workshop, Blended Finance in Water Sector, we will deliberate how blended finance can work into water sector related investment through discussion regarding the blended finance concept, exploration on best practice of blended finance from other countries, risk management in blended finance, and also water governance on blended finance. The expected output from the second workshop are structuring and establishing a framework to implement the blended finance for the water sector, and developing key issue or topic in the identification for water innovative finance resulting from the participatory approach. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe today's event is aligned with the mission of Bandung Institute of Technology, which is to innovate, share and apply science, technology, art and humanity, and to produce excellent human resource for a better Indonesia and the world. I believe this event will bring further innovation in the financing aspect to accelerate the development of sustainable water infrastructure. I would like to express my gratitude and appreciation to all distinguished speakers and guests, and also to our sponsor or our knowledge partner, and especially to Bandung Institute of Technology for facilitating event today. To close my remarks, I will also take this opportunity to invite all of you to be engaged in this water and innovative finance STEM, and also in the upcoming workshop. Thank you, and I wish you all a fruitful discussion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Baik, terima kasih Bapak Heri, mohon tetap berada di atas panggung. Please remain on stage to give the token of appreciation to Director of Bandung Institute of Technology. And for that, we would like to invite Professor Reini Wirahadikusuma to please come again on the stage. Boleh kita beri tepuk tangan Bapak dan Ibu, give a big round of applause ladies and gentlemen. Official camera will be in the center in the count of 1, 2, 3. Boleh foto sekali lagi Bapak Ibu. 1, 2, 3. Boleh kita beri tepuk tangan sekali lagi. Mohon tetap berada di atas panggung Bapak dan Ibu, karena kita akan melanjutkan untuk foto bersama. For the next photo session, we would like to invite Mr. Ari Setiadi Murwanto, Mr. Pius Chong, Mr. Wahid Sutopo, Mr. Setiawan Wangsatmaja, Professor Andreas Wibowo, and also Mr. Irwan Dinata to please come up on stage for the next photo session. Kami persilakan untuk dapat naik ke atas panggung dan berfoto bersama. And ladies and gentlemen, for your information that Mrs. Victoria Delmon is now joining us online. Thank you. Mohon berkenan Bapak dan Ibu untuk dapat berfoto bersama. Nanti dapat melihat ke official kamera yang berada di tengah. Official kamera boleh diangkat tangannya. Baik. Sebentar. Mungkin boleh di sisi sebelah juga. Bagaimana? Official kamera sudah bisa masuk frame semuanya? Sudah? Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a photo session together. Official camera in the center in the count of 1, 2, 3. One more time with the biggest smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Boleh kita beri tepuk tangan yang paling meriah. Give a big round of applause. Thank you. And after this, we will have a doorstop station. Jadi Bapak dan Ibu mohon berkenan untuk dapat bergabung di doorstop station. Jadi silakan untuk Profesor Reini, Bapak Heri, Bapak Ari, kemudian Bapak Setiawan, Bapak Irwan Dinata dipersilakan untuk dapat menuju ke doorstop station. Dan untuk yang lain kami persilakan untuk dapat kembali ke tempat. We would like to please you to be seated. Accept the name that I just mentioned for the doorstop station. Thank you very much. And now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, during the doorstop session, we will have a coffee break inside of this room. Jadi Bapak dan Ibu, jangan kemana-mana, nanti coffee break akan disajikan di atas meja Anda. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform you that the coffee break will be served on your table. Dan sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu, mohon berkenan untuk jangan kemana-mana. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't go anywhere. And once again, please enjoy the coffee break as Indonesian says, selamat menikmati. Thank you.
Itu sangat bermanfaat sekali Pak. Dulu 1 tahun itu bagi lahan kering itu bisa tanam padi 1 kali. Kalau sekarang itu bisa tiap musim tanam.
Tidak akan mungkin menjadi bangsa yang berdaulat di bidang pangan kalau jumlah bendungan dan saluran irigasi yang mengairi lahan-lahan pertanian kita di seluruh penjuru tanah air sangat terbatas.
Saluran HLD merupakan urat nadi dan pusat tata kelola air di wilayah Sungai Lombok yang menghubungkan 12 daerah aliran sungai dan membawa kelebihan air dari das basah di bagian barat ke das kering di bagian timur dan selatan Pulau Lombok dengan panjang total 60 km. Saluran HLD perlu mendapat perhatian serius untuk menjamin NTB menjadi lumbung pangan nasional.
Dengan mengucap Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, pada pagi hari ini saya resmikan Bendungan Sukamahi di Kabupaten Bogor, Provinsi Jawa Barat.
Hadirin sekalian, baru saja kita saksikan bersama pengendalian banjir Bendungan Ciawi dan Sukamahi yang baru saja diresmikan oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia.
Dua bendungan ini adalah bendungan kering, Ciawi dan Sukamahi. Ini kita harapkan bisa mengurangi banjir yang ada di Jakarta kurang lebih 30,6%.
Penyediaan air minum merupakan kegiatan menyediakan air minum untuk memenuhi kebutuhan masyarakat agar mendapatkan kehidupan yang sehat, bersih, dan produktif. SPAM Regional Jatiluhur 1 dibentuk dengan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha KPBU dengan sistem desain, build, finance, maintenance, operate, and transfer antara pemerintah dengan badan usaha pelaksana yaitu PT Wika Tirta Jaya Jatiluhur. Dengan beroperasinya SPAM Jatiluhur, diharapkan pelayanan air bersih perpipaan untuk daerah DKI Jakarta, Bekasi, dan Karawang akan meningkat. Quality leads to better life.
Proyek Sistem Penyediaan Air Minum Regional Karian Serpong adalah salah satu proyek strategis nasional yang dilakukan dengan menggunakan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha atau KPBU. Sumber air berasal dari Karian Dam yang saat ini masih dalam proses konstruksi, kapasitasnya sekitar 300 juta meter kubik. Proyek SPAM Regional Karian Serpong akan memberikan layanan terhadap total 1,9 juta penduduk.
From the largest dam in the country, SPAM Insinyur Haji Juanda Jatiluhur Stage 2 Drinking Water System Project, water for the people. Supplying drinking water at the tap of over 2 million people in 30 of 119 sub-districts in Jakarta, Bekasi City, Bekasi Regency and Bogor Regency.
So managing water resources, we always do it at the national level, but we know that water doesn't have any boundaries. So it's really important to look at it at the basin level. We say you can't manage what you can't measure. So that's why data and information has a significant role in helping basins and regional organizations to better manage the water resources.
Water is in danger. I strongly believe that we are in the danger if water is not taken care of properly. Everybody will have to come together. Everybody will have to share their expertise, their experiences, and we have to march together by holding hands firmly to achieve that goal of water security to everyone, because it's not anyone's business, it's everyone's business now.
Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, kami persilakan Anda untuk dapat bergabung kembali bersama dengan kami di dalam ruangan dan menempati tempat duduk yang telah disediakan karena acara akan segera dilanjutkan. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to please you to join us one more time inside of the room and please kindly be seated because we are about to continue our session for today. Thank you. Moya, clear water for better living. Ladies and gentlemen, to the Road to 10 World Water Forum side event, Water Innovative Finance Team, second workshop, Blended Finance for Water Sector. May I have a big round of applause for all of us? Boleh tepuk tangannya dulu, mana semangatnya Bapak dan Ibu? Terima kasih, kita akan melanjutkan rangkaian acara kita pada kesempatan siang hari ini. So ladies and gentlemen, we will continue our program for today. So we are about to start our first panel discussion for today. And for that, we would like to invite our moderator to come up on stage, the head of Centers of Excellence in Urban Infrastructure Development, University of Catholic of Parayangan, to please come up on stage. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our moderator, Professor Andreas Wibowo. Kami persilahkan.
Baik, selamat pagi Ibu Bapak sekalian. Good morning. So my name is Andreas Wibowo and I am from Parayangan Catholic University from the Center of Excellence in Urban Infrastructure Development. And I will be moderating this session for the next 1.5 hours, about 1.5 hours. And in this session, we would like to discuss the blended finance concept in the water sector. As we already know that we have a target to achieve, as Pak Eri Tejat mentioned, in the Sustainable Development Goals, especially goal number 6, that we have to ensure the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all by 2030. For all means that it must include, especially in the economically disadvantaged group of people. And on the one hand, the government, our government is usually faced with financial constraints, while on the other hand, multiple resources are available. So how then the blended finance can help the government to achieve the target will be in today's discussion with our panelists. So it is my pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our distinguished panelists. With us, there are 4 panelists who will share with us. The first panelist is Victoria Delmont, who will present online from Singapore. Good morning, Bu Victoria, Bu Vicky. She is the head and upstream and advisory infrastructure Asia Pacific Department of IVC. And the second panelist is Pak Pius Chong. Good morning, selamat pagi Pak Pius. Pak Pius is the executive director Deals and Strategy Deloitte in Singapore also. And the third is Pak Sutopo. Selamat pagi Pak Sutopo, Pak Topo. from the Infrastructure Quality Fund atau PT Penjaminan Infrastruktur Indonesia, and the fourth is the Secretary Head Office Java Province, Pak Setiawan Wangsa Atmaja. Selamat pagi, Bapak. So I would like to invite all the panelists to the podium, and we will discuss in, let's say, in 1 hour. So this session will be divided into 2 sections. The first section is the panel session which lasts maybe in 1 hour, and then I will continue with the discussion. It's about 30 minutes. So please welcome to the podium all the panelists. Good morning, Bu Vicky from Indonesia. Is my voice is clear?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you very
thank
well.
you very much. So I will start this discussion with Bu Victoria or Bu Vicky on the blended finance concept. Bu Vicky, can you please explain us actually what the blended finance is? What does it really means? What is the difference actually from, let's say, the blended finance from the public-private partnership, or there are two things, very different things? Maybe you could share with us, Bu Vicky. Maybe you have something to present for us. So please, if you have material to deliver.
Great, thank you very much.
And you have 15 to 20 minutes, Bu Vicky. So time is yours.
Great, thank you very much. It's very good to be here, and I thank the organizers for inviting me, and wish everybody in the room greetings and good morning. I'm Victoria Delman, or Vicky, and I'm with the International Finance Corporation, and I'm going to explain a little bit about what that is, and then talk about the topics that we just touched on. And so I am heading up the upstream and advisory team for IFC for Asia infrastructure. And we work precisely in this space. So we work to make projects which may not quite be bankable by bringing in different tools, including TA assistance and support to projects. And we work closely both with private entities who are implementing projects, as well as with subnational entities such as as PDAMs and municipalities. So if you could put up the slides for me.
Dari panitia mungkin ada yang bisa ditampilkan slides dari beliau.
While waiting for the slides to go up, so the International Finance Corporation is part of the World Bank Group. So next slide after next, please. Next slide. As part of the World Bank Group, and we lend money to the private sector and also to subnational entities. We also have other financial products. Whereas our sister companies, so including the World Bank, as I'm sure you're familiar, lends money to sovereign governments. And so we work very closely with our colleagues in the World Bank and with the other products here. So one there which is listed is MIGA, which provides insurance products, particularly in relation to project finance deals. And it can be very relevant also for the concessional blended finance discussion. Next slide. So IFC provides a range of tools, as you can see here. So we have a very large, sizable portfolio. So around 60 billion worldwide and 19.9 billion in Asia. That was in FY20. We are in many offices. We've got a global footprint, 102 offices in 95 countries. And we really do, as I said before, leverage the full range of the World Bank Group. Importantly, IFC has been rated AAA since 1989, and that helps in being able to provide finance. Next slide. We provide a range of products. So on the investment side, we will provide loans. We can also provide equity directly, investments into private projects, trade and commodity finance, derivatives. So we will provide swaps, arrange for swaps, particularly when we're raising finance for clients where they want to take local currency finance, and we'll get onto that. We can hedge to ensure that they get the benefits of long-term financing under dollar-based or dollar-based financing, and that they can also then swap it into local finance. Then key there is blended finance, so using donor and concessional funds to crowd in private financing. And then we syndicate. So we will lend money directly, but also a very key part of our role is to mobilize finance, both with DFIs and also commercial finance. And that is also critical when having these discussions about concessional finance and blended finance. We then provide upstream support, which is the middle box there. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing, where we provide early stage project interventions to help companies, and also we work very closely with municipalities and water companies, as I mentioned before, to really help them become creditworthy and to be able to raise finance. We provide and anchor design and implementation of platforms and programmatic approaches, which I think we're going to be talking about today as well. And we work closely with other development organizations in the World Bank. We also provide advisory support, and in that we can work closely with existing clients to unlock investment opportunities and strengthen clients' performance and impact. And a very key piece, IFC is part of the World Bank Group. We always promote very high best-in-class standards on environmental, social, and corporate governance standards, and we can provide advisory support to our clients who are so that they can comply with that. Next slide. Just to give you a sense of the size of the lending that we're currently making to municipal and environmental infrastructure. So we have 5.4 billion of IFC's own account mobilized in the past 15 years. And a lot of that is in the water and waste sector. And then the rest of it is to municipal or subnational entities. So we work very closely on water and waste projects, both with public and private sector clients. We work, next slide. We work across the water value chain, so on bulk water collection. And we're currently working closely with private sponsor and the Indonesian government on the Carrion Water Project, which I will talk a little bit about later. Treatment, distribution, conveyance networks, and billing and collection. We can also provide similar support on wastewater, so sewerage, treatment, sludge management, and increasingly we're seeing water reuse. Next slide. We engage across 3 verticals. So as I mentioned, we can work with subnational entities and utilities, recognizing that the water sector is dominated by public utilities, and it's very important to work with them to help them attract commercial finance. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Also public-private partnerships. So I don't think it is distinct from blended finance, as I will go on to explain. But it's very, very key part of the range of products that can be provided and the solutions that can be used for the water sector. And as I mentioned, you have the Carrion project, which we're currently working on, and many others in Indonesia, where you're seeking to, through PPPs, to bring bulk supply to utilities. And then the third category is working closely with private clients and supporting them to be able to raise finance. And we work with them to support them to de-risk projects and to, when we need to, in order to achieve bankability, we will blend it with concessional finance. Next slide. So on to blended finance. So what is it? Next slide. So I'm going to give you the definition, which has been agreed on through the DFI working group on enhanced blended concessional finance for private sector projects, which IFC is leading. So blended finance is combining concessional finance from donors or third parties alongside DFI's normal own account finance and or commercial finance from other investors to develop private sector markets, address the SDGs, and mobilize private resources. And so the idea is that IFC investment or a DFI investment plus concessional co-investment gives you blended concessional finance, and we can come in at different stages of the concessional finance. So it can finance softer terms on price, it can help reduce the cost, it can extend the length of the loan, the tenor, and it can also support in where the payments or the payments back to creditors, to the lenders will come in. So that's the ranking of the debt and also in providing security. And you can combine these. So it could be early stage equity, guarantees, which I'll talk about, and it can also bring in either senior or mezzanine debt. So that is, mezzanine would be below the senior. So the second ranking lending, and senior is the first ranking lending. So these are all different tools that can be used to address market failures and can address the financing gap. Next slide. So who are the main actors? So traditionally, we've looked at concessional funds that have come from governments and from multilateral sources such as the World Bank, combining with development finance institutions and maybe a little bit of private investors. What we're seeing and what is quite different now is that the level of philanthropic resources that are coming forward, so through entities like the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, through the Rockefeller Foundation, and also donor governments are really ramping up. We've seen that through the commitments under COP27 and 28, that there is an increased interest in bringing finance from bilateral routes, bringing either grants or concessional financing to blend with commercial funds and also with multilateral sources. So you'd be able to bring down the cost of finance and to also make finance more flexible. So it's not just about bringing it down in cost, but also adding flexibility. Next slide. So how does blended finance work? So you can be providing grants to fund the costs and activities that lead to the investment. So that would be debt and equity. You can provide grants in there. You could be providing junior equity, which is subordinate or takes second rank to the main equity. And that can give protection to the equity investors because, to the lenders and the equity investors. Then there's flexible debt, which provides favorable terms that can adjust the risk-return profile. So then you may have flexible debt coming in under senior debt, and so it protects the senior lenders against certain risks. It may be that it's against what we call first loss. so that they will be more likely to get paid out in the event that there is a default by the borrower. And we can also have market rate debt or equity, so it can be what we say pari passu, or in parallel to the lending or the equity that comes in from the commercial investors. And we're seeing a lot of that as well. An example of that would be in the case of, again, this Carrion project, where looking to IFC is supporting the investment in a bulk water supply project, and commercial or potentially concessional finance will be coming through the form of a senior loan from the Finland IFC Support for Climate Fund. And so you can raise parallel finance, also that's one mechanism. The last one is that I have listed here is guarantees. So these are risk reduction tools that protect investors against capital losses or provide credit enhancement. And so they can protect against a lender not making its payments for whatever reason. It may be that it's delayed in payment before it's defaulted, or it defaults. And so guarantees can be provided both for debt and also to support the equity or protect the equity. But it's really crucial to note that while blended finance resources can be instrumental in helping move the high-risk, high-impact projects forwards, they must be used effectively to achieve the intended developmental impact and tackle specific market failures efficiently, to make sure that only the minimum concessionality needs to be used to catalyze commercial capital, and transparently to enhance the market creation potential of each transaction. And I'll talk a bit about that more in a minute. Next slide. So these are the type of instruments. So they can be supporting pricing, so they could be bringing down the rates of lending. They could be helping on risk. So it may be that, as I mentioned, they could be a lower level of lending, so subordinated debt. There may be that they get paid out after other lenders, so that's through a waterfall structure. And there may also be security that is provided to one group of lenders and not to another. There's also through the structure, so you can achieve longer grace, so longer period before you start making payments of interest, longer tenor, so longer period for the loan, sculpted repayment, so the repayment profile for the loan may be adjusted and supported through the use of blended finance. And then you can have back-ended repayments, so where you're leaving payment of most of the principal to the end of the loan. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there's a possibility to bring down the cost of swaps for interlocal currency from US dollars, for example. Next slide. So what's been IFC's role in blended finance? So we've had nearly 2 decades of experience implementing blended finance. It wasn't called that necessarily, but where we came together with concessional finance. And we currently manage and invest in projects supported by over a dozen blended finance facilities funded by various development partners. As I mentioned, some of the bilaterals and also foundations. And as you can see, 3.1 billion in concessional donor funds has resulted in 17.2 billion in additional finance. So you really can leverage, it brings huge impact to be able to bring in these kind of funds. Next slide. IFC takes a disciplined approach to blended finance, as do the DFIs, and it heads up the DFI working group, which is looking at this. And the point is to ensure that you focus on the careful use of concessional funds for high development impact projects. It's also very important that there is transparency So public disclosure of transaction level subsidies for each project, along with justification for why it's necessary. So it's really important for each project to show the rationale or economic case, that it really is crowding in, and that there's a minimum of concessionality, that there is commercial sustainability. So it doesn't make sense to be working with projects which are really not at all commercially viable. They need to be marginally viable and financially viable for them to then be able to move towards being viable through concessional finance. Reinforcing markets, so really strengthening the capital markets in the different countries that we work in, and promoting high standards. Next slide. So concepts and scheme for blended finance. Let's just switch to the water sector now. Next slide. So as we were talking earlier in the introduction, the water sector financing needs are enormous, and I've got 114 billion here to meet the SDGs per year. Other numbers were quoted earlier. I don't think we really know what the number is. All we know is it's big, and it's a lot bigger than what we're currently putting into the sector. Next slide. Funding sources for water have traditionally been the public sources. So you've got the 3 T's. So that's tariffs, taxes from local taxpayers, and transfers from higher level governments, donors, and other entities. There are insufficiency in these across the board. Even if there is a cost-reflective tariff for operations, water operations, the tariffs do not cover the cost of investments, typically, even less so in wastewater. So there is a need for private sector finance to really fill some of these gaps, but it's very difficult where there is a financing gap that is not creditworthy. But if there is, as I said, if it's marginal, if the project or the off-taker is marginally unbankable, then blended finance can help to make that project bankable. Next slide. And this is just showing
Vicky,
graphically.
sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
You have 2 minutes, okay?
Okay, that's fine, yeah. So next slide. As I mentioned, and you can look at these maybe at your leisure, but there's just I put this in the pack so people can see how these things work. So for example, the senior loan with concessional financing, we can bring in blended finance along with IFC finance, and it brings down the blended cost. We can also have the loan from blended finance at a lower level than the senior lending, and that can also help bring down the cost. Next slide. I mentioned you can have local currency structures, so where blended finance can help to reduce the cost of the swap. Next slide. And then guarantees. So you can use these in the context of a facility or a single loan. And they can, again, help to reduce the risk profile and make borrowers more comfortable to actually lend to the projects. And I just want to talk quickly about the policy and strategies, as I was asked about that. So next slide. And next slide. And the following one, please. So it's really important not to forget that even though concessional finance and blended finance can support projects, it's important to get the fundamentals right. So when on the policy side, it's important to improve efficiency of the water utilities, to spend more effectively, preventative maintenance and focused subsidies, creating markets and crowding in commercial finance and PPPs. Next slide. Commercial lenders want to see that the borrower is financially healthy and the basics are taken care of. So that's really critical. So focusing on ensuring track record of borrowing and repayment of debts, financial capacity, strong management, and a clear mandate. Next slide, and the slide after that. Next slide. The use of blended finance should not fail the market or crowd it out. So it's important to identify the right projects and the right beneficiaries where concessional finance is appropriate and makes a difference. It's important to charge cost-reflective tariffs, capacity building of utilities to help on financial management, and in parallel, government should improve willingness to pay. Meanwhile, back to the same key points on DFI working group principles to ensure that there's efficiency, that it's effective and it's transparent. I'm going to finish off with a case study. So I think NUAS is a good example of where actually financing grants is coming together. If you can go down 3 slides, please, to slide 30. That one. So NUAS is really supporting obviously on the PDAM categorization. And next slide, where you're bringing in different forms of matching grants. So that's a type of, in a way, a type of concessional finance that could go to the next level and actually come into to blend those projects. You can make a few tweaks to make the NUAS framework work for you. Next slide. I've also mentioned the Ganga project here, which is in India. It's a wastewater treatment project, which was done as a project finance, and it was using viability gap funding with concessional finance. And it's been very effective in being able to actually bring private sector investment into the wastewater sector, which is always very difficult to do. And I'd last mention the Carrion project, as I mentioned before, which IFC is currently working on. It's a water supply project for the development, construction, operation and maintenance of a water supply to Greater Jakarta. And there we are crowding in blended finance in the form of concessional funding from Finland, and to de-risk that project and hopefully make it a great success. So thank you. This has been a bit of a whistle-stop tour, and it's really great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Vicky. Time is up, unfortunately. So if I may summarize that, the blended finance is a kind of a combination of type of finance with a different ranks of claim, especially from the perspective of the private sector. Thank you very much, Bu Vicky. Actually, I have some question for you, but because the time is limited, I will move to the next panelist, Pak Pius Chong from Deloitte. Pak Pius, could you please explain us, from your experience, the best practices, or maybe the worst practices actually, from other countries, how we can adopt the blended finance that we can learn from it in our situation into Indonesia context then. So, as with the Bu Vicky, you have 15 minutes. Please take on the time available for presentation. Pak Pius, silakan.
Okay, thank you very much, Park. And first and foremost, good morning to everyone. It's my pleasure to be here to join this very important workshop. I think we all recognize the importance of water to everyone. You know, whether it's taking a bath in the morning to drinking water. As we know, 1/4 of the global population do not have access to safely managed drinking water. And close to half of the global population do not have access to safely managed sanitation. And here we are, experiencing this wonderful hospitality in this beautiful setting with the birds, the cicadas in the background. And I think we can do a lot more. And we have seen the development of blended finance coming to the forth in the last couple of years. PPPs have been mentioned before, and I think it's important that how we can galvanize the capital that we have, or the wealth that humanity has created, to really see how we can finance the water-related SDGs. Just very quickly, just on the next slide, please. Here, what Vicky has touched on, what we see here, you've got a couple of key stakeholders. You've got the public sector, the private sector. We can throw in philanthropy in there as well. How we can then blend with the use of technology in green investments together with the social impact enterprises to create the right framework in which more capital can flow into water investments. And there's no shortage of capital, both in the concessional finance aspects of things and commercial. Right? When you look at it, there has been an establishment of family wealth. Family offices have been created. Impact investing has been in the forefront, and it's how we can actually nurture this wealth to develop opportunities for this wealth to be circulated into worthwhile water projects. Next slide, please. So here you can see diagrammatically how we can blend both development finance, commercial finance to unlock the value of wealth that has been created to fund worthwhile SDG-related water projects. Next slide, please. Now, some of the overview of best practices in blended finance. First, strategic alignment. Right? How do we align policy through to capital, and then choosing bankable projects in which to deploy capital to attain sustainable development goals? In the second bullet, we touch a little bit upon how we can mobilize this commercial capital. Third, transparency, right? How do we actually look at, we monitor, we assess the application of the funds that have been deployed, and how do we actually monitor the impact to prevent impact washing. Vicky mentioned a little bit about the risk sharing between concessional, public-private philanthropy, and there are various aspects in which you can do this to ensure that at the end of the day, the risk-benefit profile of the various stakeholders are met. And as I mentioned earlier about impact measurement, which is quite important in respect of how you go about ensuring that the capital deployed has gone to the right causes. Next slide, please. Innovation with blended finance. Financial instruments, what have we seen? Traditional equity. On the credit side of things, we have seen the development and introduction of green, social sustainability-linked bonds. We have also seen the use of Islamic instruments, Sukuk, for example, to fund such innovation. There has been blended finance funds that have been set up, right across through to PPP. So in essence, it's the full gamut of the water sector, everything from upstream through to the usage as well. And the usage here, some of the examples would be in agriculture and aquaculture. In aquaculture, for example, we are seeing the use of technology to recycle wastewater, or just recycle the water being used for farming, to which it lowers the usage of water as well as energy consumption as well. So technology has helped transform many of the processes, be it in terms of manufacturing, through to monitoring and data analysis. Finally, blended finance platforms have emerged where communities of stakeholders, be it government agencies, NGOs, civil society, through to the capital providers, have come together in various communities, whether it's on a global level, regional level, or local level. Next slide, please. So when we look at some of the key trends and the statistics relating to blended finance and water, now in terms of the deployment of blended finance by sectors, only about 5% of blended finance has been earmarked for water and sanitation projects. So there is a wide open space for more things to be done, more things to be deployed, and it's really a partnership between governments in ensuring enabling legislation, regulations, as well as policies to help to unlock the potential of capital. And here it could be anything from concessional capital through to non-concessional capital, philanthropy, as well as commercial requirements of funds as well as lenders. Now, water itself, some of the economic losses related to water insecurity, we go beyond just usage of water. So where you have lost relating to water water irrigation, property flooding, inadequate sources of water. Now, roles that can be played by the multilateral development banks, such as the World Bank, ADB, and Vicky have shared what IFC is able to provide. Besides this, you have the suite of donor countries together with sovereign wealth funds as well, who have taken an interest, not just coming in to provide concessional financing, but also to look at how they can achieve the SDG objectives. On the supply side of financing, you have the bond markets that have developed creative products, as mentioned, green bonds, social bonds, blue bonds, and you have long-term investors, including insurance funds, pension funds, infrastructure funds, ready to deploy capital into bankable investments. So that's the thing. How do we actually ensure that projects are bankable? So it's a combination of working with all stakeholders to identify these bankable projects in which to deploy funds. Just to give you 3 examples of case studies. Next slide, please. Just a couple of different examples. On the water equity case study, it's a water credit fund where funds are deployed to stakeholders in the community, and you have, and here it is in respect of various aspects of the water sector, everything from water and sanitation enterprises that require funding, and credit facilities were granted to such enterprises, through to loans to microfinance institutions that provide micro loans to users of water so that they can actually purchase infrastructure use, for example, through pipe water that these loans finance. The one on the right, it's essentially to show you've got infrastructure programs that governments support as part of foreign aid. And here the Australian government has a program in place in Cambodia where essentially they are looking at funding what's the viability of these projects and to provide funding to fund that gap in the viability. And there's been, I worked on a project last year in Cambodia, and in essence it's to provide growth funding for a pipe water operator in rural Cambodia. They had no access to commercial funds, commercial lenders in Cambodia. We started off with an equity raise, and very quickly it became clear that the economics to fund an equity raise would not be met within the time frame of an equity investment. So what we did then was to turn that into a credit instrument and bringing in funders, including the DFIs that provided this credit instrument. And alongside that, there was also technical assistance facilities that was made available post-funding to enable them to work on their governance structures as well as ESG compliance initiatives. So that shows you the way that you can work quite innovatively to create structures that ultimately will help social impact enterprises to get access to funding. And on that transaction as well, on the private sector side, we had impact funds who had provided venture funding to fund the project on the back of the DFIs coming in as well. So the DFIs were coming in to provide additionality, right? So it's not to crowd out private investors, it's to provide additionality, right? So they work in collaboration to provide the necessary growth funding for the impact enterprise. And just on these two examples here on the waterfront in Nairobi, that fund essentially is to show that community-based engagement and participation is quite important. And with the right level of funding, you can get the requisite water needs being met, right, with community engagement. And just on the right, it's to show that it is also important to develop the domestic markets. And here it was a domestic bond that was issued by a provincial government in Mexico, where essentially it was to build and develop the domestic capital markets and also to bring a new asset, which is a water-based asset, into the capital markets. So net-net, at the end of the day, there are challenges. However, you know, humanity has been fortunate in terms of being creative, being innovative, and I think this is a good step forward in which blended finance can help in alleviating some of the challenges within the water sector. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pius. I actually have 1 minute, but you can answer in the next session. I would like to know what can you recommend us in order to mobilize blended finance in our water sector, actually. But you can answer in the next session because we have only 15 seconds.
Sure, okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Pius. So if I may summarize that one of the key features of best practices, as Pak Pius mentioned, is the risk sharing between the public and private sectors. And then it's quite fit to invite Pak Wahid Sutopo to explain us the blended finance from the perspective of risk management, actually, Pak Sutopo, because you are experienced in this field and you can share the ideas and your experience to us. How can we manage actually the risk in the context of blended management, especially in the water sector? So please, Pak Sutopo, your time is yours. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Professor Andreas, distinguished panelists, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First, a quick introduction of our organization. The Indonesia Infrastructure Guarantee Fund is a special mission vehicle under the Ministry of Finance, and we were mandated to promote private participations in infrastructure development, including the water sector, of course, by providing different type of sovereign guarantee scheme, as well as project development facility and capacity building. So I think in the next few slides, I'd like to share with all of you what have been done in the water sector and what we think is necessary to further develop the risk management of the sector. I think we can go to the first slide. Yes. Do we have the slide? But I think we could just take up from what have been presented by Victoria earlier and also Mr. Chong about the blended finance related to the high risk projects. So basically we look at blended finance as a tool how to mobilize new sources of funding and additional private sector capital and support the development of high risk project with high potential, including the water sector. We try to have a broader interpretations of the blended finance, also to include the use of grants, public funding, concessional loans, or other incentive to reduce the risk associated with the project, and of course to attract private investment. So the objective is, of course, to ensure project's viability and bankability and address potential market failure. If you look at specifically to the water sector, the next slide. So this is the general structure of water projects in Indonesia. Inherently, it's quite complex because the different part, the upstream, the midstream, and also the downstream, lies within different authority within the government. So the upstream part is mostly related with the national government, mainly with the Directorate General of Water Resources. The midstream part, we can have some private participation on the production unit or the water treatment plant, and also some part of the downstream side as the main distribution facility. On the downstream part, this is mainly the authority with the municipality. The national government, through the Directorate General of Cipta Karya, can also participate in the construction of this facility, but the operation should have been done by the municipality or the local water companies. So the main characteristics of water projects in Indonesia is it is required long-term nature and complexity of the infrastructure required, so relatively high risk. It requires the involvement of various stakeholders and therefore require close collaborations between public and private sector that involved. And the regulation inherently shaped to be conducted with variations of financing mode for different part of the project, as we can see in the chart. In the following slide, we'll look at some example. I think the first one in the next slide is the indicative structure. If you can go to the next slide, please. Of the Jati Gede Regional Water Supply System. Maybe later on, Pak Iwan will also elaborate or touch upon this. But as you may see in the chart, it requires participation from the national government, the provincial government, and also the municipalities in different part of the project. And therefore, different type of financing will be done in a different part of the project. Another example is the West Semarang Water Supply System, in which Moya, the sponsor to this event, is participating as well. I think similarly there are different part of the project on the intake or raw water, which is provided by the Ministry of Public Works, but later on it is also operated as part of the PPP scheme by the implementing entity or the SPV. And the midstream part, the water treatment and the some part of the reservoir is done under a PPP scope, and also the involvement with the private sector. as the construction and also the operations and maintenance. And lastly, the distribution part, the downstream part, is done by the local water utility for the construction and also for the operation as outside of the PPP scope. As you may appreciate, that this is quite a complex structure involving different stakeholders and agencies. And when we invite private participation to such project, we require certain measure of risk management. On the following slide is a description. Next slide, please. Is a description of a general project structure also for water project. So I think for Indonesia, the blended finance scheme maybe fall into this umbrella of PPP or public-private scheme. So I think in this structure, the government represented by the contracting agency, depending on the structure of the project. If it's a provincial project, then a provincial water company. But if it's in the national project, it will be an SOE in the water sector that acting as the contracting agency. And as a measure of risk, we also require that there is a support from the government. So for the local water company, for instance, there will be local state legislations or Perda that state that the provincial government will lend its support to the GCA in performing its obligation for the project. Similarly also for the off-takers, we also require that the local government, the municipalities also provide the support for the off-takers, usually the local water company, and through local or state or municipal legislations. So in the project structure itself, a concession or PPP agreement will be entered to between the contracting agency and the SPV or the PPP company, in which us as a guarantor will enter into a guarantee agreement with the SPV or with the PPP company. In return, a recourse agreement will be entered into between us as a guarantor with the contracting agency. So as you may appreciate, that different mechanism of risk management and the risking facility is utilized here. So in different level, in the central government, national government, there is a viability gap funding facility that is available to the risk, the construction part of the project. And on the local government, as I mentioned earlier, there is a legislation that require to state the support from the local government to the contracting agency. This also include the commitment about the tariff agreement between the contracting agency and the off-taker and the contracting agency with the SPV or with PPP company. In our guarantee arrangement, we will then provide guarantee to support the fulfillment of the obligation between the contracting agency to the PPP company or to the SPV. In the next slide, I think we just mention a number of risks related in water project, starting with the connectivity risk, mainly the willingness to connect from the end users. I think Pak Pius mentioned earlier some facility that may support the willingness to connect, especially the cost of the first connection. The other issue is with the construction schedule, matching between different part of the project that has been financed separately with different arrangement. The other risk is the interface risk. This pertains to the design and specification, again also the schedule, and also adjustment on the government support in terms of the schedule and disbursement. The other risk is pertaining to the revenue risk during the ramp-up period and also adjustment of tariff. And the last is the political risk related to the policy in the government or a regulation which may impact project viability and continuity. So we can extrapolate this risk into a blended financing scheme. So mitigation can focus on the area of upstream and downstream preparation stage that should be integrated, and agreement, legally binding agreement from all stakeholders in terms of detailed and synchronized schedule on the construction, business plan and operation, and of course the enabling part, the adjustment in the regulation to support the state or regional enterprise as the operator and off-takers. So this can be formed in the form of financial support and ability to cooperate with the private sector. I think in the last slide, I would like to mention that key strategies is required because financial instrument alone, such as guarantee, may not sufficient in mitigating the risk. So we highlight the necessity to have the capacity building, so providing capacity building programs to improve the understanding of the risk management strategies and skills to implement them effectively. So we do this jointly with different agencies in provide capacity building, as well as the knowledge sharing and partnership building. So we have a platform called Joint PPP Office, comprises of 8 different agencies that can be leveraged in performing these areas: capacity building, knowledge sharing, and partnership building. The other one is proper project preparations, comprehensive and integrated project preparations to ensure viability of the project. And in this case, we have the facility from the Ministry of Finance in the form of project development facility. There is a specific arrangement, a grant that can be provided by the Ministry of Finance to do these project preparations and help the agencies and local government in preparing for the project. And lastly is the monitoring and evaluation. So it is mandatory under our guarantee agreement for the contracting agency and the investor to set up a joint monitoring committee from the time we enter into agreement and towards the life of the project or the life of the guarantee. So this ensure that we can effectively monitor and evaluate the progress of the project and also identify and address risk in a timely manner. I think, Pak Andreas, this is what we can share. Back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Sutopo, for your presentation. Actually, one of the most concerns in the water sector is about the tariff uncertainty. I would like to discuss later in the next section if the time is allowed. Pak Sutopo and also Pak Pisa and Pak Setiawan also share how can we deal actually with the tariff uncertainties. That is the one question. Another question is how can we deal with the mismatch between the up and down streams, because our regulations split the streams into 2, the up and down streams, which is under different responsibilities. That's one or 2 issues, the biggest issue, biggest challenge in our water sectors, especially if you want to adopt the blended financing. But we can discuss it later again in the next section. And last but not least, I will move to the 4th panelist, Pak Setiawan, President, could you please explain us, elaborate on the water governance on the blended finance, especially from the experience from the West Java province? So, as with the other panelists, the time is yours, and you will have about 15 minutes for presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, the moderators, ladies and gentlemen. So I would like to present regarding a case of West Java, maybe, especially for the blended financial. So I would like to introduce of West Java, even though most of you already know. I think West Java right now have a population is, I think, nearly 50 million population. So 50 million is similar with South Korea, actually. So it means that West Java is similar with other countries, especially in South Korea. And we also have 27 district and cities, regency and cities, 27 regency and cities. And so we have around 600 districts, and we have more or less 5,000 villages. So if we see West Java, I think if we can, let's say, solve the problem in West Java, at least Indonesia also can solve, because West Java is more or less 1/5 population in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, I would like to give the point of view, especially my perspective, especially if we talk about the waters, because water is close related to the situation of global, especially in climate change. So that's why now it's happened in West Java, the climate change. For instance, during the extreme wet season, so we have flood, and positively during the dry season, and we have some drought in everywhere in West Java. So that's why our impact, of course, is not only to the water itself, but also to our resilience, especially for the food and so on. Ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about the water stress index in West Java, so we have, I think, around the medium impact, especially for water stress. So you can imagine that with Java, we have the population of 50 million, but the source of water resource is more or less the same from the time to time. So that's why we have to really conserve our conservation land, and also we have to really conservation according to the water and wastewater. Also, we have to strong consider in West Java. Ladies and gentlemen, if we talk about the water supply, so we also should think about the wastewater, because our water supply we consume that around 60 to 70% is to become the wastewater. So that's why if we talk the wastewater, so the wastewater also eventually it will reach the river and others water source in West Java. So that's why this is a kind of this we call it the circulation of the problem in West Java. I think it's not only in West Java, but also I think in other provinces, also other countries. For instance, ladies and gentlemen, this is the research, commonly research here in ITB, and it is mentioned that around 70% of water source in, let's say, in Indonesia or West Java is contaminated by E. coli. So I think we have to think about this, but of course our research should be a thing that this is some kind should be to improve, how to improve this situation. So this is the one of the problem, the biggest problem according to our point of view. Ladies and gentlemen, I think so that's why if we talk about the potential investment needed, especially for water pipelines, so we can see that this is the gap of what we call it, the gap of investment. If we talk about from 2015 up to 2035. So we divided by two areas. One is urban and another one is rural. But if we talk about the accumulation, between the urban and rural, we can see that we have some kind investment gap is up to 20 trillion rupiah. So we have to meet and need in 2035 our investment around 20 trillion rupiah. So that's why it is impossible if let's say the budget is rely on only in the government side. So that's why we always, invite to the private to be, let's say, to the same cope the problem, especially in terms of the water supply and sanitation. So this is the situation for us. This is for instance that the regional water supply system in West Java, we have at least 5 or maybe 3 up to 5 the blended financial for coping this problem, especially for water supply. First, we can say that Jati Gede Regional, this is our experience right now. So the Jati Gede Regional Water Supply System, so the water source is from Cimanuk River, and then the scope is from upstream to downstream. So, and then the project cost is around 1.2 million in upstream and 1.5 trillion in downstream. And then, as we can see that the household connection is around 120,000 household, and our scheme is blended finance. So right now, we're still waiting for the approval, especially from the PT SMI. And then the second, our experience is the Sinumbra Regional Water Supply. And what the interested in the project is, this is unsolicited PPP, public-private partnership. Because I think the first one is solicited and the second one is unsolicited. It means that the proposal is come from the private company. And then we can see that the project cost is around 1 trillion for the upstream and also downstream, more or less the same. And it will be connected to the home, more or less 96,000 households. And the scheme of finance is a blended finance. And then right now, our progress is still auction preparation right now. And the next is Kertasari water. Our experience is the Kertasari water supply system. This is only in Bandung urgency, and the scheme is only business to business from the regional owned enterprise to the private company. And then the last one, actually, we have 2 big projects, but it is under the control of the Ministry of Public Works. We call it Juanda and also water treatment plant for Jatiluhur. I think this is our experience from West Java, and the rest maybe it will be elaborated in our discussion part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Setiawan. So the first session is over, and I would like to give the opportunity for the audience to give some comments or share ideas or something, which is you can address to one of our panelists. We will have about 30 minutes for discussion sessions. I have one question actually for Vicky. Vicky, there is one question for you. Let me read the questions. Thank you for your presentation, Bu Vicky. You mentioned that the IFC support the water supply and also the wastewater. Is there any possibility to support financing on the development or construction of the dam projects? So please, Bu Vicky.
Thank you very much. So I guess clarification. So in terms of the dam projects, it really depends on what the use is for the dam. So we see typically if it's multi-purpose dam and there is a significant energy generation element, clearly that's something that's going to be a little bit easier to finance because there will be a revenue stream that will be coming from that project. Also, if it's predominantly for a bulk water supply, as with the case of the regional bulk supply projects, we're seeing there that those are becoming bankable, particularly where we can tap concessional finance to help de-risk the projects. I think it's a little bit more tricky for irrigation. There have been a number of attempts to create irrigation projects through PPP structures around the world. We've seen that in Brazil, and it seems to be now that there is some opportunity for that succeeding, where there is concessional finance, significant concessional finance that comes in with it. But again, it comes down to what is the credit worthiness of the off-taker. So is it going to be to a large entity or to end user farmers? What is the appetite for the end users to commit to long-term contracts to purchase the water? And what kind of mechanism will be for supporting the offtake through guarantee, etc. So definitely conceptually it's possible, but for irrigation, I think it's harder for us. But in the case of multi-purpose projects, yes, we have got track record, certainly working in multi-purpose dam projects in Africa, for example. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bu Vicky. So it is possible, but it is also depend on the type of the project, whether it is multi-purpose project or not. That's the answer from Bu Vicky. Any other questions, please, from the audience to share some ideas or comments or questions? Oh, silahkan, Pak. Barangkali bisa dibantu. Please state your name and your affiliation and to which panelist your question is directed.
Hello. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My question is for Ms. Just give some answer. What is the consideration? Yeah. Collaboration between investor and the people who need clean water. For example, maybe the region is the people has more money to pay the water price, but they need water clean. For example, in Indonesia East, sometimes there is what is opportunity to have more money, but there is no infrastructure to have water clean, for example, dam and water plant. What is sometimes this problem is, what in the schema your participation in this condition, maybe total grant or also maybe between the government, local government, but the people no more money to pay in the price water. This is a problem in Indonesia. Okay, thank you.
Ya, terima kasih. Dengan Bapak siapa? Maaf Pak.
Pak Legowo dari.
Oh, Pak Legowo, Pak Legowo, sorry Bapak dosen saya Pak Legowo.
Oh ya. Murid lupa dosen.
Sudah lama.
Makasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So ini Pak Legowo disampaikan ke Pak Pius ya?
Oh, yang Ibu ini.
Oh, Ibu Vicky. So Ibu Vicky. So
all the
panelists.
Okay, actually there is a formula.
Exactly. Okay. Okay, terima kasih Pak Legowo. So Pak Legowo asked about how actually we can balance between the affordability, the bankability, and the feasibility in the water sector. So please, Bu Vicky, and then I'll give the opportunity for Pak Pius to share your ideas how to solve this problem, and Pak Setiawan also Pak Sutopo, if you have some ideas. So please, Bu Vicky.
Thank you very much. I think this is a really good question. I think it also goes to the planning questions for these projects. So as I mentioned, it's really important that the projects that get blended finance and that really are for combination of concessional and private finance are ones which are marginally bankable. So I had put up the slide of the NUAS program because I think that is a good example of where utilities that don't actually have significant revenues and where they are working in environments where it's really hard to raise tariffs, that those are getting more support from government and from public sector funding and potential concession financing. The utilities which are more creditworthy and which are charging tariffs which are close to being cost reflective and are getting revenues, those are the entities that really should be pushing more on trying to get commercial finance. And where there is a gap, draw on blended finance to meet those needs. It's also really important to realise that there is the potential need for targeted subsidies of certain communities. But at the same time, there is a limited willingness to pay the world over for water. So there is this sense that because it falls from the sky, that it's not a service that should be paid for. And so the worth of water is not necessarily valued. So I'm now getting into the whole question of water tariff policy, but I think it's important that people place the same importance on getting water as they do on getting electricity or any other services. And so there should be a price to water. It should not, because if it's not priced, then people will not necessarily use it in an efficient and careful way. But obviously, where there are poorer communities that cannot afford, then there should be the potential for some targeted tariffs and subsidies. Thanks.
Thank you, Bu Vicky. Papos, will you share some ideas?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to add to what Victoria has just shared, just from an impact perspective, right? So where the outreach into the community needs to be done from an impact perspective, what we've seen also is that impact enterprises, right, have identified this opportunity in which they can actually work with the local communities that require access to affordable and safe water, right? Traditionally in rural communities, you have women and children tasked with basically collecting water, whether it's from the river, whether it's from boreholes, whether it's from tankers, or to buy bottled water. And I think the cost effectively of, I was looking at some statistics as regards to the bottled water and the economics of bottled water, right? So in a way, that's the safest of all of these various options I just mentioned, right? And how do you then work with communities to have actually access to affordable and safe water through pipes? So you can have impact enterprises with a social impact focus to come up with ideas and solutions, right? Where they will tap into venture funds or family offices who have impact-focused investment criteria to work with, firstly on a small scale basis, and then to grow it across communities and then municipalities to provide safe and affordable water to households as well as to SMEs who traditionally would have a need for access as well.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So it is important to evaluate the impact of the project, and I think it's required to engage stakeholders from multi-facets.
Yeah, in a way, the impact enterprises are effectively entrepreneurs who see a need. And also, they're not giving up a financial return because rightfully, I mean, as Vicky mentioned, water should be paid for, right, as a utility, just like electricity, right? But how do you get safe and affordable water to these communities? So you have impact enterprises, effectively entrepreneurs, who set up essentially an enterprise that will essentially treat water from source and then provide that through pipes into connected to households. So how do you then encourage the households that it's affordable enough for you to actually pay for piped water, which will then free up your women and children from having the task of actually collecting the water. And as I mentioned earlier, it was a project that I worked on in Cambodia, which effectively had this in play. So you can work with impact funds to do that. Right? That's just an example of going away from a big water projects. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pius. Pak Stian, maybe you have some ideas whether to deal with the problem in our province then.
Yeah, okay. Pak Legowo, maybe your question is if the community is not affordable
yes,
for the tariff, water tariff. Okay, Pak Legowo, basically in West Java we have 5 principles before we taking our policy for this. The first, like, we have to transparency and also for accountability. That is, I think, the main, the most important thing is. And then the second is like, what we call it, inclusiveness. Because during our FGD, like focus group discussion, we cannot neglect the marginal group. Maybe we have to also include there. And then we have to think about the sustainability. And then because we are talking water, we are talking the long-term, what we call it, the availability. So the third is collaboration. This is, I think, the important part for our, before we are taking the policy of the blended financial. And the last one is the capacity building. So by 5 principles, I think first we have to, what we call it, the information to be clear to everybody, because the first party that we have to deal with, I think, with the legislation. That is, I think, the hard part of our, hard part of our job here, actually. So that's why I think in our experience, the scheme of what we call the blended financial, there are 3 things. The first, the Ministry of Finance, I think via the PT SME, they give the, as we call it, the VGF, the what we call it, Viability Gap Fund. But that fund only for the CAPEX, the capital expenditure. And for the tariff, we also give subsidy, for instance, from the province, and also accumulation from the regency and cities. So by then, I think the affordability of the, especially for the tariff, I think should be more possible, even though I was mentioned that I think the hard part is how to convince our friend in legislation. That's all, I think.
Thank you, Pak Setiawan. So it means that it also requires the political wills from the government.
Sure, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Pak Sutopo, barangkali ada yang ingin mau disampaikan.
Terima kasih, Pak Andreas. I think from our experience, Pak, the striving pertains to 2 things, Pak. First is some misperception that groundwater cost is 0. So I think this is the one of the most common issue in Indonesia, Pak. When we develop a water project, the challenge is that population compares that to a quote-unquote free groundwater. I think this is an area that we can work with, Pak. That groundwater is not actually 0. There is a cost from environmental. Pak Iwan mentioned earlier about the health issue as well with the use of groundwater. So if this can be addressed, I think we have some progress in terms of this tariffing and pricing. The second one is the pricing or tariffing mix, Pak. I think in most water project, we found out that actually there is a segment in the users, the commercial, industrial, that are more than willing to pay more, Pak, for the water. Because for them, the other alternative will be much more costly. So we have an example in one particular project that the industry, they have to use reverse osmosis system. So of course, for them, it will be much more economical to use, this utility or pipe water, and hence some sort of cross subsidies can be done, so that the low-income household, will have a better pricing that they can afford. And lastly, I agree with Pak Iwan, Pak, it's a matter of legislation and regulation, Pak, that we need to work out from the national level towards the municipality level in terms of this pricing. Thank you, Pak.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Sutopo. So I think it is also important to educate people that the water, maybe the water is free, but the distribution from the source to the tap is costly. That must people understand that it requires some capital investment, and for that they should pay for the services. Thank you, Pak Sutopo. Another questions, comments from the audience? We still have till 12:08, I think. Oh, silakan Pak, please state your name, your affiliation, and to which your question is directed.
Baik, terima kasih. Mau izin saya pakai bahasa Indonesia, Pak.
Silakan, Pak.
Nama saya Imam Mustafa. Saya anggota Dewan Sumber Daya Air Nasional. Terima kasih diundang ke acara seminar hari ini. Terima kasih pada Ibu Victoria yang tadi dari perspektif internasional memberikan gambaran mengenai aktor-aktor utama dalam blended finance. Tetapi dari perspektif lokal, kita orang tahunya yang disebut dengan blended finance itu ya namanya KPBU, Pak. Kerjasama pemerintah badan usaha. Ini artinya melibatkan terutama adalah pemerintah dengan private sector, badan usaha. Jadi tidak seluas seperti yang tadi digambarkan dari perspektif internasional, ada macam-macam agencies ya. Mungkin filantropi tapi di Indonesia ada, tapi saya kira kecil dan ini agak susah masuk di dalam perspektif yang lebih kuat gitu. Nah, KPBU itu kan kita mengajak swasta. Mengajak swasta, saya kira ini memerlukan syarat tambahan tadi apa yang disampaikan oleh Pak Sekda ya. Ada 5 principle. Tadi saya kira perlu satu prinsip satu lagi Pak kalau kita mau ngajak swasta. Ya ini profitability saya kira ini. Sebab kalau kita mau ngajak swasta, swasta kan cari untung. Kalau tidak ada prospek profit, agak susah saya kira di situ. Nah sini saya kira ini menjadi salah satu kendala yang perlu kita diskusikan mengenai bagaimana cara mengatasi ini. Dan sementara kita tahu juga bahwa ternyata kita punya constraint, bukan hanya kekurangan dana ya, bukan hanya problem kelangkaan dana, tapi juga problem politik Pak. Kita punya Undang-Undang SDA nomor 17 tahun 2019. Misalnya undang-undang tersebut secara eksplisit membuat batasan di mana kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha ini strict tidak bisa masuk ke dalam wilayah operasi dan pemeliharaan. Padahal operasi dan pemeliharaan infrastruktur ini adalah sesuatu yang juga sangat penting menurut saya. Karena konstruksi tanpa OP yang baik, nanti infrastruktur yang terbangun menjadi tidak optimal pemanfaatannya. Padahal kita tahu bahwa kebutuhan biaya operasi dan pemeliharaan tentu akan semakin besar dengan semakin besarnya konstruksi yang kita bangun. Misalnya di era Pak Jokowi ini ada target 65 bendungan misalnya, itu pasti akan sangat membutuhkan biaya operasi dan pemeliharaan juga akan meningkat tajam. Padahal ini menjadi salah satu kendala. Artinya kebutuhan infrastruktur kita, pendanaan infrastruktur kita akan semakin meningkat, tapi constraint kita tidak akan semakin besar juga. Sementara kita punya keterbatasan sumber-sumber finansial dan juga problem politik tadi di mana profitabilitasnya juga menjadi akan sangat kecil karena di Indonesia ini kan kita tahu water is not for commercial. Air ini bukan sesuatu yang komersil di kita, melainkan menjadi sepenuhnya tanggung jawab pemerintah yang ini tentu kurang menarik. Contohnya bahkan pengelolaan air infrastrukturnya yang kemudian bisa mengharapkan imbalan dari beneficiaries seperti misalnya air minum, perusahaan air minum kita kebanyakan tidak sehat dan tarif kita masih jauh di bawah tarif full cost recovery. Jadi di bawah, ya masih banyak sekali subsidi yang harus dibayarkan oleh pemerintah terhadap sesuatu yang sebenarnya kebutuhan bisa dibayar oleh pelanggannya. Terima kasih Pak. Mohon diinterpretasikan Pak Moderator. Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Imam. So, if I may translate the question from Pak Imam there. Vicky has presented from the global perspective, but actually in Indonesia, the blended finance is almost equivalent to the public-private partnership, which is a very has a limited definition if compared to the blended finance. So the question is, how can one of the principles to attract the private financing in PPP project is the profitability. How can we ensure the attractiveness of the project so that we can invite the private sector to invest into the water sector? That is the biggest problem, as we know that our regulation, the laws, the government regulation 122 2015 split, as I mentioned, that the business in the water sector is divided into two streams, up and downstream. How can we then integrate between the two streams? As also the facts also revealed that our municipal water utilities are maybe 40% are unhealthy, and 60% actually, Pak Imam, municipal water utilities do not adopt the full cost recovery principle. 60% FCR, they are not FCR. This is also the biggest problem. How can we then deal, how can we optimize the blended finance, or maybe we can call it the PPP to the water sectors? That's the questions from Pak Iman. I hope that my translation is correct. So maybe from Pak Pis or Pak Setiawan or Pak Sutopo or Bu Vicky can share your ideas how to deal with this problem. Actually, this is a very long-lasting problem in our water sectors. So, Pak Pis, maybe you have some ideas.
I guess that's why the investments in the water sector is so low in terms of funds going into the water sector, because there are challenges from, like you mentioned, legislation. There is a disconnect between upstream and downstream. And so how do you actually get if you're going to invest, to ensure that you are able to tap into the returns that justifies your investments. So again, bankability is one thing, right? Accommodative legislation is very important, right? To enable commercial participation by commercial interest, right? To basically and with a combination with concessional financing, then you get the right mix to be able to then apply blended finance into this space. I guess that's why we're all here, right? To work together to try to find solutions to this perennial issue. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Pius. Bapak Setiawan, barangkali ada yang mau disampaikan?
Thank you very much, Pak Imam Mustafa. I will add my principle become 6. The last one is profitability. For the point of view of private, I think this is good. Yeah, Pak Imam, in terms of our experience, especially for Sinumra and also Jati Gede. Jati Gede is for the Cirebon Raya and Sinumra for the south of Bandung. If we talk about the KPBU, PPP, public-private partnership, it's not only funded only in the construction phase, but also for the operation and maintenance. So if we talk about the full project in both Sinumra and also Jati Gede, we divided by 2. The first is for the upstream, and the second one is the downstream. So the upstream from the water treatment plant up to the transmission pipelines, and for the downstream is distribution line. So if we talk about the KPBU, it's not only for the construction, but also we put in our with agreement also in operation and maintenance. That's all, Pak. Yeah.
Thank you, Pak Setiawan. Pak Sutopo, do you have some ideas?
Yes, thank you, Pak. Maybe I think this is the question for the private sector, yeah, for Pak Irwan to answer. How profitable do we expect, a water project to participate? But my understanding, yeah, Pak Imam, is if I'm not correct, please correct me, Pak Irwan. It's not matter of profitability, but it's also a matter of risk-reward return, yeah, Pak. How certain is the return, the profit? In my past experience, Pak, when I was with the corporation, the question is whether are we going to choose project with, say, 15% return and or project with 10% return? The answer is depends, Pak. Depends on many things. One of them is how certain is the return, how risky is the project. So one of the approaches how to mitigate this risk, I think the government, Ministry of Finance, has provided a number of guarantee facility. So from us, I think we provide the guarantee facility for PPP project under the Presidential Decree number 78, year 2010 actually. And there is also another guarantee under the Presidential Decree number 46, year 2019, in terms of credit facility for water project. It might not be perfect, yeah, Pak Iwan, yeah, but at least we try to provide this, and we keep improving with feedback from the private sectors, with feedback from the financial community, how to balance this risk-reward return. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Pak Sutopo. Actually, the time is almost up, but we still have one question from Bapak Fani. Bapak Fani from Zoom. So please raise your questions and to which your question is directed. Pak Fani, silahkan Pak Fani.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Moderator. Semoga suara saya kedengaran.
Jelas, Bapak, jelas.
Yeah. So allow me to convey this in English. So I hope the interpreter later can translate this. So I just have 4 inputs. My name is Fani Wedahuditama. I'm from Global Water Partnership Southeast Asia. So first point is that blended finance is basically possible if we can first agree on what we should be able to finance together. So this has to be set. So it is not case-by-case blended financing approach, but more to an integrated blended financing mechanism. This is the first point. The second point is that we need to identify what indicators and targets and program and project even that we want to finance together. Is it for water infrastructure? Is it for capacity building? Is it access to WASH and so on? Most important is that we agree on what to finance together. It has to be clear, Pak. And then the third point is that once we agree on what we want to finance together, we need to agree on the mechanism of the blended finance. We can agree on the blended pooling financing mechanism, for example, combining the BOT, ROT, and water bonds, for example, or the other mechanism is to have this blended decentralized financing mechanism for selected indicators and target through many projects. Now, for example, many organizations is trying to help the government to increase the access for water and sanitation, right? Because we have Indonesia have target on universal access by 2025, for example. So these many organizations with their own funding, they actually can contribute. However, we need to facilitate a mechanism where all these organizations can manage their own fund by themselves while also agree, have a sign an MOU with the government to report on their progress to the government. So the result of the access that they increase can be accumulated as part of the national achievement. So if we do this, then many organizations with their own funding, they can use their funding to support the government target. So this is also can be considered as a blended financing. So it is a matter of consolidating the action on the ground who are contributing to the same indicators and target, but still can be financed from different funding sources and can still be managed by each organization. So this is something that is simple that can be done. But in order to do this, we need to know who is doing what, where and when, and how much they have fund to do this. Now for this, Global Water Partnership Southeast Asia has developed this integrated water security open program platform where it will allow us to know who is doing what, where, and when, and all this action is contributing to which indicator of water security. Now, once we know who is doing what, where, and when, then we can decide to have an agreement to align between this action, the non-government action, with the government action, to align them and then to report together at the end of the day. So this way you can accelerate the achievement of the water security goal every year. So this is just the 4 points that I would like to share. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Pak Fani, for your recommendations. So if I may summarize that, the blended finance is about the collaboration as long as it must be clear in the right and the responsibility of the parties. Time is up, unfortunately, with 3 minutes delay actually. So thank you very much for the all panelists, also for the audience for sharing your ideas. Let's give us big applause for all of us. Thank you very much once again, and I will now hand over the time back to the committee for the next sessions. And saya Andreas, mohon maaf jika ada kata-kata yang kurang berkenan dari saya. Saya kembalikan waktu kepada panitia. Silakan. Thank you very much, Pak Pius, Pak Setiawan, Pak Topo, Bu Vicky, dan semuanya. Terima kasih.
Baik, terima kasih. Boleh kita beri tepuk tangan yang paling meriah. Give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for all the speakers and also moderator. Please remain on stage to receive the token of appreciation, and please kindly take the position, gentlemen. And to present the token of appreciation, would like to invite Mr. Ari Setiadi Murwanto and also accompanied by Mr. Arno Adikuntoro to please come up on stage to deliver the token of appreciation. Mohon berkenan untuk tetap berada di atas panggung kepada seluruh speaker dan juga moderator untuk menerima token of appreciation. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to inform you to represent Mrs. Victoria Delmon. We would like to invite Mrs. Lam Tiurida Huta Barat to receive the token of appreciation. Mohon berkenan Ibu untuk mewakili, kami persilahkan. Once again, we would like to extend our gratitude to all the speakers and also our moderator, and also not forget to mention Mrs. Victoria Delman, who is joining us online. Thank you very much. Dan setelah ini mohon berkenan untuk dapat berfoto bersama. So after this, ladies and gentlemen, we will have a photo session together. Dan sekali lagi, Ibu Lam Tiurida Huta Barat mewakili Ibu Victoria Delman. Baik, boleh berfoto bersama, dipersilakan. Silakan mengambil posisi kepada moderator dan juga pembicara. Well, to all the moderator and speakers, we will have photo session together. Please hold on, official camera, tunggu sebentar. We would like to invite Mrs. Victoria Delman. Can you please be online because we're going to have a photo session together. We have your face on the screen, of course, so please give the biggest smile for all of us. So ladies and gentlemen, the official camera will be in the center in a count of 1, 2, 3. One more time, the biggest smile. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. Thank you to all the panelists or the speakers, thank you very much, and also to moderator, thank you very much, and you may return to your seat. Thank you for sharing with us, and we hope that everyone in here can get a new perspective and also will get a new insight based on our sharing session for today. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, dipersilakan untuk duduk kembali. Sekali lagi kami ucapkan terima kasih kepada para pembicara dan juga moderator, dan tentunya Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, setelah ini kami akan mempersilahkan Anda untuk dapat menikmati santap siang yang telah disediakan. Namun kami informasikan sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, jangan kemana-mana, karena setelah sesi makan siang kita masih akan ada breakout session, dan untuk informasi breakout session Anda dapat melihat di arah screen yang berada di depan. So ladies and gentlemen, Before we are going to enjoy the lunch together, we would like to inform you that after this, we are going to have the breakout session. So for those of you who will join the breakout session, don't go anywhere and please can return to this room. And also we would like to inform you about ladies and gentlemen, we will inform you about the breakout session list after the lunch session. Jadi sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu nanti dipersilakan untuk dapat menikmati santap siang terlebih dahulu yang disediakan di Aula Timur dan mohon berkenan untuk dapat kembali lagi ke ruangan ini pada pukul 13.15 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to please everyone to enjoy our delicacy buffet dinner that we have already prepared for you in the East Hall. And also please be returned to this room at 1:15 p.m. And once again, we will inform you about the breakout session list after the lunch break. Jadi sekali lagi Bapak dan Ibu, mohon berkenan untuk dapat kembali lagi ke ruangan ini on time pada pukul 13.15 waktu Indonesia bagian Barat. Karena nanti kami juga akan menginformasikan list detail mengenai breakout session. Jadi nanti Anda dapat melihat ke arah screen yang berada di depan. Dan juga kami informasikan bagi Bapak dan Ibu yang ingin melaksanakan sholat zuhur dapat dilakukan di Aula Timur juga. Sekali lagi kami persilakan Anda untuk menikmati santap siang yang telah disediakan. Bapak dan Ibu yang kami hormati, selamat menikmati. As Indonesian said, please enjoy. Selamat menikmati. Thank you.
Itu sangat bermanfaat sekali Pak. Dulu 1 tahun itu bagi lahan kering itu bisa tanam padi 1 kali. Kalau sekarang itu bisa tiap musim tanam.
Tidak akan mungkin menjadi bangsa yang berdaulat di bidang pangan kalau jumlah bendungan dan saluran irigasi yang mengairi lahan-lahan pertanian kita di seluruh penjuru tanah air sangat terbatas.
Saluran HLD merupakan urat nadi dan pusat tata kelola air di wilayah Sungai Lombok yang menghubungkan 12 daerah aliran sungai dan membawa kelebihan air dari das basah di bagian barat ke das kering di bagian timur dan selatan Pulau Lombok dengan panjang total 60 km. Saluran HLD perlu mendapat perhatian serius untuk menjamin NTB menjadi lumbung pangan nasional.
Dengan mengucap Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, pada pagi hari ini saya resmikan Bendungan Sukamahi di Kabupaten Bogor, Provinsi Jawa Barat.
Hadirin sekalian, baru saja kita saksikan bersama pengendalian banjir Bendungan Ciawi dan Sukamahi yang baru saja diresmikan oleh Presiden Republik Indonesia.
Dua bendungan ini adalah bendungan kering, Ciawi dan Sukamahi. Ini kita harapkan bisa mengurangi banjir yang ada di Jakarta kurang lebih 30,6%.
Penyediaan air minum merupakan kegiatan menyediakan air minum untuk memenuhi kebutuhan masyarakat agar mendapatkan kehidupan yang sehat, bersih, dan produktif. SPAM Regional Jatiluhur 1 dibentuk dengan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha KPBU dengan sistem desain, build, finance, maintenance, operate, and transfer antara pemerintah dengan badan usaha pelaksana yaitu PT Wika Tirta Jaya Jatiluhur. Dengan beroperasinya Spam Jatiluhur, diharapkan pelayanan air bersih perpipaan untuk daerah DKI Jakarta, Bekasi, dan Karawang akan meningkat. Quality leads to better life.
Proyek Sistem Penyediaan Air Minum Regional Karian Serpong adalah salah satu proyek strategis nasional yang dilakukan dengan menggunakan skema kerjasama pemerintah dan badan usaha atau KPBU. Sumber air berasal dari Karian Dam yang saat ini masih dalam proses konstruksi, kapasitasnya sekitar 300 juta meter kubik. Proyek Spam Regional Karian Serpong akan memberikan layanan terhadap total 1,9 juta penduduk.
From the largest dam in the country, Spam Insinyur Haji Juanda Jatiluhur Stage 2 Drinking Water System Project. Water for the people. Supplying drinking water at the tap of over 2 million people in 30 of 119 sub-districts in Jakarta, Bekasi City, Bekasi Regency, and Bogor Regency.
So managing water resources, we always do it at the national level, but we know that water doesn't have any boundaries. So it's really important to look at it at the basin level.
Recording stopped.